Excellent, excellent, excellent. Welcome to the third live stream session on the SharePoint Hackathon on March 2025. Awesome to have you, everybody, in here. Somebody was already saying that this is the third session they're on as well, which is brilliant, brilliant, excellent. Thank you, Natalie, on that one. Awesome to have people coming back, which means that people like the previous sessions, hopefully. This is the third session. We still have other 3 sessions coming. Today's topic, though, is really, really exciting. Right, Mark?
It is, and it actually makes me want to go back to the 1980s and do Mr. Roboto. Nobody got Mr. Roboto. Yes, SharePoint agents are here, and as you may figure, Vesa and I are not robots, and these SharePoint agents are the friendly kind. So you're going to get a lot of great insights today. It's a great part 3 of the web series. I love that people have been joining, seeing everybody coming from everywhere worldwide. It's great. And one little note for me, I changed my location, so I'm coming to you live from Boulder, Colorado. So it's great to join in with you, Vesa, today.
Cool, cool. I'm coming live from Helsinki, Finland today. So a typical setup. People might have seen this background if you've ever seen any of our community calls a few times. Now, again, coming back on today's topic, we're going to talk about SharePoint agents. And like Mark was saying, a super exciting feature. It's something which went GA in Ignite as the first version. And of course, it's been evolving and we're rolling out new features. And today we're going to talk about a bit about the roadmap and what's coming out on this spring and all of that. But we do have a great intro, and Eric is here, Credel, to actually do the intro on what is it, how does it actually work, does it, what does it, how you can use that to make to be more efficient. So looking forward on that for sure.
I think to learn about SharePoint agents is great. To learn how you can hack SharePoint agents into your sites and portals is even more great. And just to know that foundationally that it's something that can help you and incorporate into what you're doing with your sites and portals to help you save a little time and make your portals a lot more engaging as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just a kind of a quick recap on CJ's talk on Monday, actually, so she was doing really well on explaining that, well, technically, agents are giving you access on information which you already have, but in a more efficient way. It's just a channel for you to be more productive against the document. So you don't necessarily need to review the document and read the whole document. You can start asking about the document super easily, and anybody can create those agents. It's a super easy thing to do, and we're going to see that live today. But before we go there, let's actually recap a bit about what this hackathon is all about and what are the different categories where you can submit, because it's not just about the live stream. We actually want people to build and test out these things as well. And as you are then building and testing out things, we're hoping that you would actually do a video submission on what you are building, what are you building, so that you can submit that as part of the hackathon. So we do have 4 categories. SharePoint agents, topic of today. So basically storytelling, how are you using SharePoint agents? Show us a video, how the SharePoint agents are being used, what are the scenario, what kind of content. We actually do have already 1 submission in on those, which is awesome. Thank you for that one. Yesterday, we went through the SharePoint portals. So that's one topic. So out of the box, flexible layouts, all of those cool stuff, what you're going to do nowadays in SharePoint. Create a cool looking portal, explain what you built and how you build it and how it looks like. And that's the video on that one. The third category is Viva Connection, which is really the mobile desktop tablet experience, your personal view to the corporate view, and they're focused on the branding and cool looking dashboards, what you can actually build using Card Designer. So on Monday, we do have a live stream on that one with Catherine. Catherine is joining us, Puya is joining us as well, and showcasing what can you do with Viva Connection. And then the fourth category is more kind of a traditional hackathon, as we use. Hackathon quite often refers to the coding, but in our case, it's only one category, so anybody can join. But that's SharePoint Framework, so you can build really cool looking, engaging experiences on top of SharePoint. Extra points, by the way, on AI capabilities, which are getting integrated on the portals. Are you submitting something, Mark?
I actually am wanting to submit something that's going to maybe do 2 or 3 of the categories together, which I think is something that everybody can do, because the thing that you just said, I want to reiterate just from my non-developer's perspective, which is I don't have to be a designer. I don't have to be a developer. I can learn what it is that you're seeing in these various webinars, especially the earlier ones, and not have a coding background and be able to go in and hack SharePoint, to be able to put together a portal, to be able to use the pages, the layouts, the templates, the design. Of course, you can bring in your own iconography and your own theme and your own branding, pictures galore. There's lots of stock photography to choose from. You can do a lot with just clicking and pointing, just a little planning in your head, but you don't actually have to, from a hackathon perspective. Historically, people think I have to write code, I have to open up Visual Studio, and I have to, read the screen with a black background and white and colored text. No, we're in full fidelity, full color, click and point and create in SharePoint. So yes, and if I say yes, then that means other people out there without being a developer can join in, but also if you are a developer, SharePoint Framework, we would love to see what you can customize and bring into SharePoint.
Absolutely. And directly answering on Chris' question, yes, you can absolutely use Power Automate in the solution if that's part of the storytelling as well, so as part of something which happens as part of Power Automate. SharePoint is Power Automate is super widely used within a SharePoint with portals and automations and all of that. So we're really looking into understanding those storytelling scenarios, how people are taking advantage of the SharePoint platform in these 4 different categories. And of course, one submission could fall in multiple categories as well, which is really, really cool. Now, as you then submit, and for example, Mark is now looking into submitting, what is Mark actually getting, or anybody, what can they win and what are they actually getting? So first of all, every person who's submitting will get a badge. This is coming from the official Cretchley system, which Microsoft uses also for certification. So you can actually use it within your LinkedIn profile, in your work-to-work profile, as a proof that you've been actively involved within the community, engaged with Microsoft on these kind of events. Now, if you are then winning, if you're one of the 4 categories that we will pick a category winner for all of the 4 categories, you have 2 really cool awards. So first of all, you will get coaching and mentoring, either from Heather Cook or yours truly. You can choose which one you actually want to take as an option. And that's 4 hours of coaching and mentoring for the winner or the winning team. So if there's multiple persons in a team, that 4 hours will be divided. And you will actually also get tickets to the Microsoft 365 Community Conference directly in Las Vegas, which is going to be the biggest conference in the Microsoft 365 and AI topics this spring. That's going to be really, really cool. A lot of us will be there. I'll be there. Mark will be there. Heather will be there. Many, many other Microsoft people will be there. A lot of MVPs, community members will be there as well. But as a winner in a category, you will get free tickets and a hotel voucher as well to help you to come together. And as if you're interested, and we would hoping that you will get to be in a stage together with Microsoft actually celebrating your submission as well. So that's a really, really cool opportunity.
And then,
yep.
Sorry,
finish
the last one, and then I'll jump in.
Oh, yes, definitely. And then the last one is also available for everybody. So not only for the winners, but we are definitely welcoming everybody who's submitting and building their designs or their solutions to actually demonstrate them within our public community, because we do get like 300 to 500 live attendees on this with thousands of views afterwards on the demos. So it's a great opportunity of actually showcasing what you built using this technology which we're providing you. Super, super great opportunity of getting exposure as well.
And but Mark, that was the point that I wanted to bring up that you really just hit home. The big value of the hackathon is for us selfishly to be able to see what people are creating, to learn what people are interested in, and then just to learn the use cases, the scenarios. A lot of what SharePoint is oftentimes is a horizontal platform, but we want it to become this horizontal platform for you to showcase what you can do. So there's a lot of opportunities both in the prizes and outside of the prizes to be able to showcase what it is that the community is creating, and for you to learn from what it is that we're sharing in these webinars, and vice versa, for us to learn where people are enjoying the aspects of SharePoint, maybe where they're getting a little bit blocked. We're going to hear it all. We're listening to it all, and it's going to be really exciting. One thing, I don't think I'll be able to win because I am not qualified to win, but I will absolutely submit. And the only prize that I don't think I would need is the 4 hours with Vesa, because I'm getting 6 hours of Vesa on these webinars.
There we go. That is true. But yeah, so recap in there, super important thing for us. And like Mark was saying, really the key point for us is getting your feedback. So as part of these webinars, as part of the videos, as part of the recordings, as part of the blog posts afterwards as well, please let us know what do you think, what works, what doesn't work. That really truly drives prioritization within our engineering. Where are we going to invest next? Because we know that those things need to be addressed. We have a massive backlog, for example, for ideas what we want to do with SharePoint agents, and we just need to know what is the next step and next step and next step. So and feedback helps on that.
Yeah.
Now related on SharePoint. Yeah. Sorry, Mark.
I was just going to say all of that plus stay tuned. This full hour, you're going to see SharePoint agents. You're going to understand them better. You have the ability to ask questions and get them answered live. So this is mainly an element of you being able to learn what they are, how you can incorporate them into your hacks within SharePoint, but also leave with fewer questions, more answers.
Excellent. And let's actually then invite the specialist, the man, the real star of today, to the house, who's going to actually talk about the SharePoint agents and get it introduced. So Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey all, my name is Eric Grottel. I am a product manager on the SharePoint agents team. So looking forward to walking through what are SharePoint agents, how is that differentiated from Copilot and the other declarative agents you may have heard of. And then we'll spend some time going through a live demo so you can see how this looks in the context of both SharePoint and how it can be shared in other canvases like Teams. So for those
before we go,
have,
Eric, before we go there,
Yep.
we're going to put you on the spot. What is your background on SharePoint? Because we're obviously also celebrating SharePoint, and how long have you been involved in SharePoint? So where did you get involved in Microsoft?
I have been at Microsoft for 10 years. I have worked on a variety of new businesses and have been within the SharePoint org for 5 years now. So working mostly on AI tooling and most recently this SharePoint agents product.
Yeah. Excellent.
Very nice.
Excellent.
AI Foundation, Graph, dynamic experiences in SharePoint, and now agents, assistants, web assistants.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. I think, Eric, you were already jumping onto the content. I guess we'll need to let you go on running through the slides as well. So let's actually jump on a few of the slides, and then we'll have a live demo as well. But Eric, take us away on explaining what SharePoint agents are all about.
Yeah. So for those that were following along at Microsoft Ignite, we announced the general availability of SharePoint agents then. These are tailored assistants for key content sets like HR, finance, R&D. SharePoint was integral in transforming intranets. We want to do the same with agents. And so the value prop of these agents is they are super easy to create. It takes less than 90 seconds to create them. And then it's easy to share those in a way that is secure, that respects permissions of the underlying content. And so it's a way of unlocking the knowledge that you have stored in SharePoint sites and making that accessible to your teams. So if we move on, we'll talk about the differences between declarative agents as well as compared to custom agents. So, there is one approach, which is building your own foundation model that allows you to customize it, but requires a developer skill set. The value prop of these declarative agents is that with low code, or in the case of SharePoint agents, no code, you can use a wizard to build these agents. And then that can be shared throughout the M365 canvas. So the idea is that this is a tool that is aimed at end users, while a lot of declarative agent tools within Microsoft are aimed at builders, people that aren't necessarily developers, but you require some technical knowledge to be able to create these things. By comparison, are very simple to create and share. So that is how we differentiate ourselves from other declarative agents within Microsoft. And if we move on to the next slide, you'll see a bit about the differences between these. And so, you may have heard of agents created via Copilot Studio. That requires some low-code skills. That also requires some governance. Someone has to actually publish those. In comparison, SharePoint agents are available to anyone who has edit access to a SharePoint site. They can then go into SharePoint, create, and there's no concept of publishing. That is just automatically available to anyone who has read access to that site. Although site owners have the option of approving that agent, and so much less governance is required. Much less technical skill is required to create our SharePoint agents as compared to declarative agents that are created using other types of tools within Microsoft. And so if we move on, to the next slide, let's talk a bit about why SharePoint is a natural place to create agents. For your typical V team that is organized around a SharePoint site, it's natural to put agents in that same environment because all your content is stored there, all the Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, etc., that are relevant to your V teams are often housed within the context of a SharePoint site. And so being able to tell an agent, hey, index all the content within a given SharePoint site, use this information to provide responses as when people query the AI, makes sense because all your content is there and readily available to team members who have access to that site. And so, it's kind of a natural pairing. Like you have this AI agent which can go out and train on the grounding content that you specify. In many cases, you already have V teams that are spun up and are organized around SharePoint sites and use those SharePoint sites to, transact and conduct their daily business. So it's sort of a natural pairing. And the idea is that, more so than just a simple SharePoint search, this AI can quickly provide information when people are looking for it, quickly retrieve information from all the content stored within your SharePoint site, and enable you to make quicker and better business decisions. And so if we move on, you'll see these are the guiding principles that we used when creating these agents. As I mentioned at the top of this presentation, the goal was to create an AI solution that would allow you to create an agent in 90 seconds or less. As we walk through the live demo, you'll see how true that is. There's really a minimum of information that you need to create an agent. You can say, you can cherry pick the content within a SharePoint site and say, hey, here are the selected files and folders that this agent should be grounded on. That is literally all you have to do to create an agent. There are other optional steps, but if your goal is to spin up an agent, ground it on a specific set of content for your V team, and be able to share it in a matter of minutes, you can do so with SharePoint agents. And then also, like I alluded to earlier in the call, the idea is that we are always respecting permissions and keeping information secure. And so when that agent is shared with others within your organization, we are doing a permissions check every single time someone queries the AI to say, does everyone have access to the underlying grounding documents? And in the event that people do not have access to all the same grounding documents, we actually include a human in the loop. We ask a human user to review the response from the AI, make sure that information is not being leaked, and in so doing, we're able to share responses from the AI while keeping sensitive information secure. So there have been a ton of customer success stories that have come out of SharePoint agents since Ignite. Some really common use cases by department that we've seen repeated over and over again, repeated successes over and over again amongst customers and also internal teams is, oftentimes you will have FAQ docs, you'll have field staff that are answering the same types of questions. Inbound leads, often will ask the same types of questions over and over again. The field and sales staff will use these agents to get a quick answer rather than having to, do a SharePoint search, pull up the relevant FAQ doc, and draft a response themselves. They can, the experience that a lot of salespeople have is they can just copy and paste that answer from the agent with little modification and quickly turn around answers to questions that people might have. And so that's one of the more common use cases. But as you can imagine, this is relevant for customer service, finance, all other types of disciplines. The magic of having all these agents grounded on SharePoint is there's really no new content that you have to create, based on all the documents. If your team has, good hygiene around making sure that things are kept up to date in SharePoint and all the relevant content is uploaded there, with very little massaging of the underlying grounding documents, you can get an agent up and running that will be able to, answer all types of common questions that would normally require someone to go out, search the intranet or search the SharePoint site and find the relevant document and find, the relevant section in the document. And so it's a massive time savings for all types of different departments. So if we move forward, we're now going to transition into, doing a walkthrough of the experience, and we'll get into a live demo, but I also wanted to share a video. So if we have the teaser video queued up.
Over 2 billion pieces of content are added to Microsoft SharePoint every day, just waiting to be shared and used. But how do you find the information you need when you need it? Now you can get a tailored Copilot experience from SharePoint or OneDrive, giving you and your team a simple way to get the answers you're looking for, grounded in your content. As an everyday user, you can quickly create a Copilot right from where your information is stored. It's as easy as creating a folder, but way more powerful. Once your Copilot is ready, easily share it with others. It works alongside you and your peers, like a digital assistant for your team, department, or even the whole company. Now everyone can quickly surface the information they need, grounded on curated, authoritative content.
Awesome. So I think now let's do a walkthrough of the experience, and then after going through a few more slides, I will show you a live demo, and that will really give you a sense of how easy it is to create these agents. And so, here is a screenshot of the experience in the Copilot side panel. If you click, if you see the Copilot icon in the top right of your screen when you're on a SharePoint site, you can open that side panel and access these agents. Users there's a default agent that is pre-installed on every SharePoint site that is just grounded on all the documents that, all the files and folders that you have stored within your SharePoint site. But then you can optionally create a custom SharePoint agent and cherry pick, those specific files and folders that are relevant for the agent. And so, in this screenshot, we've opened the side panel, and the user, within the context of, having opened the side panel anywhere within the SharePoint site, the user has a compose box where they can type their question. And so if we proceed to the next slide, once they click the send button, next slide, the question will appear in the chat. And then if we proceed, you'll see that a response based on the site content is generated. And so, like I said, the default agent is just trained on all the files and folders within your SharePoint site, but you can cherry pick those files and folders as part of the custom agent if you so choose. And then final slide, the response is shown in the context of that Copilot side panel. And so to give you a sense of just how easily and quickly you can create an agent, I am going to now share my screen.
Now, Aaron, before we go there, can we actually do a few questions on this side? Just a few questions pending, and then do a live demo right after that, addressing the immediate questions. Mark?
Yeah, I flagged a couple. One is licensing, and in fact, one of our experts out there in the community who's talking to our customers has addressed this question, it sounds like 4 times recently with 4 customers, just around the availability, the GA, anything we can share around licensing. It doesn't have to be the deep details. We will certainly point to the promo article so that people can read more deeply about it. But just, Eric, your thoughts on SharePoint agents at GA, licensing, and what we can share.
Yeah, so this is already available to everyone who has a Copilot license. This was GA'd late last year, and that includes, the ability to share one of these agents within the Teams client, which we'll show in just a minute. So you should all have access to this already, assuming that you have the appropriate Copilot license.
And the appropriate Copilot license, just to be super clear, is the Microsoft 365 Copilot license per user. So just to be super clear on that, that's the default licensing on this one. So there's no additional other licenses on it.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, if we could just put up the link that'll take people to the trial information, people can go learn a little bit more about the specific trial that we have going on for SharePoint agents. It's a really nice licensing model. And it doesn't require all end users to have a full Copilot license. It's a way for people who are just maybe asking a question here or there, but to be able to do that from a compute perspective. So we're running a trial, I think, through June or July. The details are in this. It's a nice article, blog article that'll link you to further details as well. One other thing I saw around a common question that I've heard, but certainly good and worth addressing, is the ability to disable it. And this might not be the full turn it off, I don't want it at all, but how people can think about managing SharePoint agents within their sites and portals, even if it's just a few or a lot.
Yeah, site owners have the ability to restrict access to these agents. More governance controls are coming in the near future, but for now, site owners, if they choose to, they can just turn off the ability to create these agents.
All right, so we did get a couple of roadmap questions. I'm going to selfishly save those to when you're talking about the roadmap.
Yeah.
But I wanted you to see a couple of things. One, which is just a really nice, it's a little bit of a longer form, but they've been building an agent, and the way that they went about it, which is the really key information to showcase here, didn't take them long to create. And in fact, within less than an hour, there was a return in terms of what they were seeing, and that they felt comfortable enough. I think we're making some inferences here, but any reactions here, Eric, just on the use case and maybe the common time that it takes people to create a SharePoint agent to see value from it?
That is awesome to hear. Yeah, the whole value prop of these agents is that they are able to be created and shared within minutes. In contrast to a lot of other declarative agents that require, some more governance controls, require, perhaps a low code approach. So, this really is, arguably the simplest simplest declarative agent to create within Microsoft Suite.
All right. Well, congratulations to a nice sort of faded Mandalorian, my T1. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
So I will drop this link into the chat. Somebody was asking for that in the chat. I will do that after. Eric, moving into your demo, but just know there's a couple of loaded roadmap questions coming to you.
Yeah,
of course.
We'll go through the roadmap a bit later on the session, but let's first see how you can actually create those agents within, what was it, 90 seconds, Eric? That was the promise? I think we can beat that.
Yeah, we need a stopwatch on screen, right?
Yes.
No, let's take a look at the demo site that we have. So, in this hypothetical scenario, Mark, Vesa, and I have created a delivery drone company, and we have a SharePoint site, an internal intranet spun up around that. It's where we store all of the documents that are relevant to our V team. So you can see, here we have, we have presentations on our delivery drone company. We have, we've responded to RFPs. We have information on pricing. We also have a bunch of FAQ documents. And so, as is true for a lot of you and customers, V teams are organized around these SharePoint sites. And so it's a natural place to create an agent from. And you can do so. There are a few different entry points to create an agent. But in this example, we were just creating an agent directly from the SharePoint file library. And so what we can do is we can cherry pick and say, I just want to create an agent. You have the option to just create an agent that's grounded on everything within the SharePoint site. And that includes not just the files and the folders, but the pages on the SharePoint site as well. The AI can be trained on that. But in this example, we want to create an agent that is grounded on a set of FAQ docs that we have. And so to do so, we can cherry pick, those files and folders that we know contain the relevant documents. So let's select a few different folders. And you'll notice that as soon as we select some of these items, you see an option to create an agent directly from the doc load. And if I edit the agent, then I can change things like the agent name. I can provide a description to give end users a sense of how this agent should be used and the type of information that it's trained on. And then here I can define additional sources that should be used as reference for the AI. I can define whole sites. I can also define, individual files or folders that contain, the relevant information. And so I have the ability to, be very specific in what documents I want the AI to reference in providing responses. And then, so this is, the only truly required step. So it takes, all of 10 seconds to define the sources, and then everything else is optional. But I can also define the welcome message that people will see when they interact with the agent for the first time. I can even provide example starter prompts for people to use when I've created the agent. And this will, starter prompts are really helpful in conveying to users how they should interact with this agent, the type of information that the agent can provide. And so if I'm satisfied with everything that I've defined in these steps, I click save. That is it. Your agent has been created and it is now ready to be shared. And so, let's look at an example of an agent. Anywhere on the SharePoint site, you can open up that Copilot side panel by clicking on the Copilot icon. And then this will show you in the dropdown all the different agents that are available on the SharePoint site. And so, here's an example of an agent that was recently created, grounded on all the content in the site. To show you an example of what a response looks like, let's ask it a simple question like, how can I order a delivery drone service? As I mentioned before, there are a ton of, Mark Vesa and I are constantly receiving questions from our customers around how they can order a delivery drone service, because we've created a very successful business, right, Mark and Vesa? And so we have a ton of FAQ documents that have answers to frequently asked questions. And so, this is a question that we have received from our hypothetical customer. And so it's going to go through the information on the site and provide an answer to us. You'll notice that as part of this answer, it gives us the document that was used as a reference. And so if we want to go into the document itself, just to confirm for ourselves what the answer is, we can. But in many cases, the answer that we get back from the AI, we could hypothetically just copy and paste into a conversation with a customer. So that gives you an example of how the agent is created in SharePoint and how you can interact with it in the context of the Copilot side panel. You can also grab a share link to these agents, and that URL can be pasted in any N365 canvas. And I want to show what it looks like to add an agent to an existing Teams group chat. And so for that purpose, let's go over to this conversation thread that I've started with Mark and Vesa. And I've grabbed a URL for a pre-existing SharePoint agent. And if I copy that into the context of the conversation, you'll see a welcome card. And if I share that in the conversation thread, then I have the ability to add the agent to the chat. And this is really cool because having added the agent to the chat, we can now, all three of us in the context of this group conversation can query the agent and get responses directly in the context of this conversation thread. And so to do so, I would just, @mention the agent, just like I would @mention, a team member, and ask it a question. And then the agent will reply. That answer is visible to everyone within the group chat. And so you can essentially, in the context of either a Teams meeting or a Teams group chat, add that agent. It then becomes like in this case, a fourth team member that, you can ask questions just like you would to a regular team member. In cases where not everyone in the group chat has access to the underlying grounding documents, the person who asked the question will be prompted to review the response. And so this is that human in the loop protection that I talked about at the top of the call, where we're respecting permissions. In this case, either Mark or Vesa, don't have access to this FAQ document that was used as reference for the AI and generating a response. And so I, as the question asker, am prompted to review the response from the AI. And assuming that there's no, sensitive information that is being shared as part of this AI response that, Mark and Vesa shouldn't be privy to, assuming that's the case, I can click send, and then that response will be viewable to everyone within the chat. And so, this is an example of how we are respecting your permissions, and in cases where not everyone has access to the same reference documents, we're actually including a human in the loop to make sure that the AI isn't leaking sensitive information. And so, this is a great example of just how easy it is to create one of these agents. It takes, a matter of seconds to do so. And then when I grab that sharing URL link, just like I can grab a share URL link for a file in SharePoint and paste it in the context of a Teams conversation, I can add the agent to the conversation. Vesa and Mark can interact with that agent by @mentioning it. And, effectively the agent becomes a fourth team member that we can, query and get great information from. And so I think I'll pause there. I don't know if there are any questions about the demo I just shared. Otherwise, we can move on to the rest of the slides.
Yeah. Vesa, if you saw one, I saw one from a little bit earlier, so it may not be directly to the.
No, feel free to you tap them on the list.
The one that I wanted to put up, which is I think important, is possibly a roadmap question, but also something to speak to around how you can create multiple agents that are tuned to different sources. So while we might not have yet audience targeting, the targeting of what the agent does and being very clear in the description and the types of questions, but anything specific around permissions or documents that you would set as what the grounded sources are?
Yeah, I would say, so as an end user, you are only going to see the agents that you have access to based on, the agents are mapped to a SharePoint site. And so you will only see an agent if you have read access to that SharePoint site. And so in the context of SharePoint, you're only seeing, the SharePoint agents that you have read access to that are housed within that site. And so, if you already have, V teams or departments that are spun up, that have spun up SharePoint sites that, are particular to your, your use case or your team or your department, then you're really only seeing the SharePoint site, the SharePoint agents that are relevant to you.
Right.
I don't know if that answers the question. I think,
I think that's enough for that topic. And of course, this is everything is evolving all the time. So there's a few questions, which there's a good set of questions. I will pick the next one. So, but which is basically good on all of the metrics and numbers and things are evolving. So that's good for everybody to know. The innovation and the roadmap is not here. We keep on evolving and improving and all of that. So there's going to be more management operation, admin operation, governance operation, all of that for agents as well. And it's all relevant, coming back on the feedback, the importance of feedback. We need to have the feedback. What are the things what we need to address first? Now, there was a good question from AJ related on hub side. So what we saw today is basically we created a agent within a site. There's kind of it's two-ended question. Okay, could I actually create a site or an agent which is then across the hub site, or can an agent be across multiple sites? Any limitations there?
Yep. No, that is a great question. I'm glad that you teed that up. You can create an agent based on a hub site. It will then use all the spoke sites as a grounding source for that AI. You can also, within the context of that custom agent builder experience, define multiple sites. And so
yes,
you can cherry pick and say, hey, index all the content that's contained within these 3 SharePoint sites, or you can be more specific and say, here are the relevant files or folders from each of these sites. And so, you can mix and match, any combination of those options.
Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think right now the limitation is 20 source URLs, but the URL can be a site or a document library or an individual file. So it's not a 20 files. It's a much larger number than that.
Exactly. You could have a folder with, hundreds of files. And if you have, all of those files will be indexed.
Yep. Good.
All right.
Cool.
Our next question is an information architecture question from an information architect. This comes from Sue Hanley in our community. And I think it's a question around how, when an agent is created, where the actual agent file gets stored, and some of the thinking behind how we do that from a architecture perspective, and maybe choices that were made in the design of why. So
yeah, I think, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to tell you the question is around when you create an agent in a document library, the agent is stored in the document library, but the default one, or if you create one at the site level, it gets stored in the site assets.
Right, and the reason we did that, if we go back to the document library, you'll see examples of agents that we have created on this test site, right? And so the reason that we created a physical file for these agents is because there are all kinds of learned user behaviors around files. When I grab a share link for one of these files, like we can see here, that URL behaves just like a URL for any other file type, where I can grab that URL, paste it in the context of a Teams conversation like we saw, and add it that way. And so there are all these learned behaviors around how files can be accessed, how they can be shared, that we wanted to piggyback on. And so that's why we made that design decision to treat these agents like any other file type that you would use within SharePoint.
And part of the design, I would guess, is that where you create the agent from adheres as close to the original source content permissions and access controls. So if in the
That is
document
correct,
library, if in the site level, and
Yeah.
certainly mindful of where you create from.
And there is
Yeah.
also the promoted agent concept. So even though you create the agent in a document library, you can still actually get it promoted in a site level. So there can be multiple agents in a site level, not just the default thing. So that's something which is explained in the documentation as well. So there's certain level of nuances on this discussion as well. So
Vesa, I've got a question for you. I think we'll answer it much more long form in 2 webinars. But this one is just asking a simple developer question. How can we embed a SharePoint agent in an SPFX web part? SPFX meaning SharePoint framework.
Yeah. I think we need to get back on that one on SPFX session on next Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Now, right now there's no. There's a simpler way of doing this actually with Copilot Studio agents because there's a native component and all of that to make those things actually work with SPFX web parts. With SharePoint agents, that's a bit more complicated storyline, but we're all of these are getting to the same path sooner or later. So there will be easier ways of doing this for sure soon.
Okay, so Eric, I think we should get back to your presentation so people can see roadmap information, and then we will ask you the roadmap questions.
Yes.
Awesome. Yes, so it sounds like there were lots of questions around the roadmap. This is a very abbreviated summary. If you want additional detail, you can go look at the Microsoft public roadmap online. But from a Teams integration perspective, I'm looking at the top 2 items. We will soon allow people to use SharePoint agents in the context of channels. Right now, it's available in Teams meeting chat as well as group chats, but channels coming soon. We will also provide the ability to have multiple agents that you can interact with in the context of a single conversation thread within Teams. And then, it sounds like there were questions around usage statistics. There's a lot more coming in that regard in the not so distant future. And then, we talked about this default agent that is grounded on all the content within a given SharePoint site that is just pre-installed. That's something that is not editable today. You have to create a custom agent like we showed in the live demo to be able to edit any aspect of an agent. But that changes in May. We'll actually let people edit that out-of-box agent soon. And then, lots of usage statistics that can be aggregated across all SharePoint sites and are available to the admin will also come in May. And then, more functionality around the built-in agent will come that allows you to share and use that within the context of Teams. That's been a very frequent request. And, we will also allow you to use files and folders from OneDrive as a grounding source in the sources tab that you saw within the builder experience when creating a custom agent. So all these things are coming in the first half of the calendar year. We have lots more plans for what will come later, but want to make sure that we've done our scoping exercises before we attach dates to those future promises. But this is what you can expect in the first half of the year.
So the big question to you is, what do you think the very first roadmap question that we saw in the chat was about? I'll show it if you guess it right. I'll show it anyway.
A really common one that we've heard is there lists for SharePoint lists?
He didn't even know what I was going to show.
I guess
Yeah. Good
Chef
way.
3 Links is asking that exact question. So can you give a little sense of what we're thinking? Doesn't have to be exact timing. And if there are any other sources that we're able to share that aren't yet currently a part of the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great news is that will come. Not in the first half of the year, but that will come in the second half of the year. That's a really frequent request that we've heard, not just from customers externally, but also a bunch of SharePoint owners within Microsoft. And so, we've heard you loud and clear. It's coming. So you can go online and look at all the different file types that both Copilot and these declarative agents within Microsoft support. Pretty much, all the Office documents, meeting transcripts from Teams, most text-based file formats are already supported. Things like SharePoint lists will come in the second half of the year. And then we are also working on, image detection, OCR, such that, if you have a screenshot of a table, for example, with a bunch of data, you store that in OneDrive. We want to make sure that even if it's, not in the context of Excel, but there's a screenshot of, data or information, that we can ingest that information and use that as grounding as well. And so, all these OCR image recognition capabilities and SharePoint list support will come in the second half of the year.
Awesome. One of my favorite things about SharePoint it is a platform that keeps on giving. And I will +1 Kashev 3 links ask here, because I have a really great list and a really nice SharePoint agent already started, and I would love for it to be list aware so that it would bring in all that information that I've been managing literally for 5 years. So I will be happy when that ships. So the next one is going to be similar to what I was asking Vesa, but from a layman perspective. It's more of a suggestive feedback. It would be nice to have an out-of-box agent as a web part that you can embed on a page. And again, from our faded Mandalorian friend, MyT1.
Yeah, it's actually not the first time we've heard that feedback. I like that a lot. I think it's not something we have on the roadmap, but it's something that would be pretty easy to execute on, I would think. So yeah, we are open to feedback. Mark, Vesa, I don't know if there's a channel by which people can submit other ideas for feature requests, but we want to hear that feedback from you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's comes commonly up, and also having a Viva connection card with a Copilot connectivity on it and all of that stuff. So I think there's thinking on all of this stuff. So it's kind of in the roadmap, but that's not in the active roadmap. So it's in the backlog. Is that the right way of saying that? It depends on what kind of terminology we do. So we definitely understand that there's a demand for these things. No ETA. That's what it means that it's not in the roadmap. We're looking into all of this stuff. But we cannot provide exact timeline right now when it would be available.
Should we chat about the promo quickly?
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. So let's actually go and quickly have a look on this on a marketing message on that one. Eric, do you want to go through the promo?
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to make sure to call this out is because this is this is a promotion that only runs until June 30th, and so. There's some urgency here. We want to make sure that you guys be able to take advantage of this before these promo credits expire. So if your tenant has 50 or more Copilot licenses, you are eligible for this promotion. And what this promotion does is it allows your non-licensed users to be able to try out these agents. And so you'll receive 10,000 free SharePoint agent queries for your unlicensed users every single month. And so there are a lot of organizations that have purchased some Copilot licenses. They are kicking the tires, testing out the functionality, seeing how it could work within their individual departments, but have yet to expand licenses to cover their entire department. This is for those customers, right? Customers that have a subset of users that have Copilot licenses, but want to extend that functionality to your unlicensed users. And so, this is a call to action. If you qualify for this license, i.e., you have qualified for this promo, i.e., you have 50 or more Copilot licensed users within your tenant, then definitely take advantage of this promo. Don't let these credits go to waste.
Eric, we've got one clarifier, we'll leave the link up here because I think it's important for people to really get to the source material. And notice all of the capital P's. I think we missed one on the slide, but there's a lot of capital P's here. We know we hear it from the community. We love our capitalized P's.
Oh my God.
But I'm the one who
How did
said it,
that
so I
happen?
stepped on the landmine. But I think that the thing that people were asking a couple of times in a couple of different ways is when somebody goes to create a SharePoint agent, especially during the trial period, if they're not licensed by Copilot, can you just walk through some of the nuance of being a member, having a license or not having a license, what people can and can't do?
Yeah, so you'll need a Copilot SKU in order to create the agent. But the idea is, if, for example, like we showed in the live demo, I am a part of a group conversation with Mark and Vesa, like you saw, I can add, because I have a Copilot SKU, I can add the agent to that group thread. And then even if Vesa and Mark do not have a license, they can take advantage of these credits that you get, and they can ask questions of the agent and get a reply. And so while you may not be able to create an agent as an unlicensed user, you will still be able to interact with it and get responses from the AI, just like a licensed user would, even if you are unlicensed.
Excellent. I think there's a lot of great things that people can do during the promotion. There's a question about when the trial period ends, what happens. That may be a little bit of an adjustment on our end because of what we learned during the trial. I don't think it's an immediate turnoff. If you stop paying for it with setting up the pay-as-you-go model, certainly that will have an effect. And if you enable somebody with a full Copilot license beyond the immediate ones that you started with, that does not require you to have the pay-as-you-go for those people to interact and take advantage of Copilot. So if you have a Copilot license, you get the full meal deal. If you don't have a Copilot license and you're interacting with a SharePoint agent, you don't have to have a license for Copilot, but you are interacting with that beyond the trial period, what we call the pay-as-you-go or pay-G model.
Yep.
And if that's set up and configured and supported in your company, then of course that would continue to work.
Yeah. And I think we will, of course, as part of the recording, we'll update the description on the recording, the video, which will be on YouTube immediately when this ends, and we'll add links and resources for related on SharePoint agents over there. All of the AGMS links, all of that stuff, what we've shown today, will be in the abstract right after the recording will be available.
So, Eric, we have a couple of things that we're going to go through just for some housekeeping to finish up here. But we've been asking all of our guests on the SharePoint Hackathon, we'd love to hear from you when somebody goes to hack SharePoint up until the 17th when the hackathon ends. From an agent's perspective, what do you want to see people doing, trying, and then submitting as their creations into the hackathon?
Absolutely. I think that, even if this is, even if you are just creating based on a hypothetical use case, the more real you can make it for folks, i.e., provide context around what is the scenario, who is the user, how do they plan to use the AI responses. The example that we gave at the top of the call was, sales staff that is training the AI based on a bunch of FAQ documents to be able to respond to inbound questions from customers. Like, the more specific you can get about the use case and who the target audience is for whatever hack you come up with, even if it's a invented scenario, would be great. Cool.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric, for joining. That was really, really great demo, great live demo, and a lot of questions got answered. And we do know that we didn't have a time to answer all of the questions. We didn't have a time to answer all of the links and all of that stuff. We're trying to address those afterwards. So please add a comment, for example, in the YouTube video, if we did not answer your question during the live session. We'll follow up on the comments then in an async format. It's going to be me, Mark, or somebody else adding those links and all of that. So please take advantage of that. Now, I think it's time to wrap up. So quickly recapping, SharePoint Hackathon ongoing until 17th of March. So next week still. There are call to action is always, please do register. You will get actually notifications then when all these live streams are happening. Create some cool stuff. So create a design, create a solution, create something, create a video about that one. So the video should be 1 to 8 minutes long, depending on, of course, what kind of a solution you're having. It could be with audio, without audio, whatever you prefer as your video format, and then submit that by end of the day of 17th of March. Now, on the upcoming live streams, we are now on the 3rd stream, closing up on the 3rd stream. We do have 2 live streams coming up next week on 10th, Monday, 10th of March, we have the Viva Connection, and then Wednesday, March 12th, we have the SharePoint Framework live stream coming up as well with different presenters on those. And then March 26th is the super exciting awards ceremony, and we're going to reveal all of the winners in the individual categories. And there's a nice playlist link also over there to follow up on all of the videos which are already available for people to take advantage. Mark, any last words?
I think it's just that. If you know somebody that wants to join the hackathon, share that playlist link. It's probably the quickest, easiest way to see all of the webinars. And in each of the descriptions, you can get to the main SharePoint Hackathon page. I think we'll leave you with that to make sure that you know there's a central location, aka.ms/SharePoint/hackathon. There's a lot of links we have, so we'll pile through them here. But there's that one page where you can read about it, share it with other people very easily. They can read the rules, they can see how to submit, they can see all the webinars, and immediately, like today, right when we close out this webinar, it's immediately going to be available on demand. So if you know somebody that couldn't make it, or you have a team member you think would love the information, share it with them. Go in and find that little moment and share it directly in. We don't mind if you hop forward to the demo, whatever works best. We want to make sure you have clarity on what the hackathon is, how to participate, and we love it when you share it with others to make sure that people know about it so they can participate as well.
Absolutely. And not forgetting about, we want every single attendee, of course, and people who are watching, join us at the Las Vegas on the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. So let's not forget about that one. But thank you, everybody, for today. And hopefully we'll see you in the next live stream.
Please welcome Jeff Tiefer.
Oh, hello. Have you seen this? It's the SharePoint Hackathon happening in March 2025. Come on, check it out.
Welcome to the March 2025 SharePoint Hackathon.
Have you heard about the SharePoint Hackathon? Well, it's happening March 3rd through 17th. No matter if you're an end user, designer, architect, or developer, there's going to be a place for you in one of the 4 categories.
Hi, this is Mark Anderson. I hope you can join the SharePoint Hackathon this March.
See you at the SharePoint Hackathon in March 2025.
I'm Emily Mancini, and I'll be joining the SharePoint Hackathon. Will I see you there?
Hey, I'm Eric Overfield, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the SharePoint Hackathon this March.
Coming up in March, whether you're a business user, designer, architect, or developer, there's a place for you in this hackathon.
Hey there. I will be at the SharePoint Hackathon. Will you join us too? See you soon.